You know, I think I'm just gonna stop doing the whole "this video is part of a larger series, etc, etc" at the beginning of each of these. If you're watching this, you know what it is. Anyway, next up on the list is Tonari no Yamada-kun, or My Neighbors the Yamadas from 1999, and spoiler warning. I didn't really know what I was getting into with this film before watching it. The cover art didn't really disclose any information about what the story might involve, and since that was all the information I had to go off of, I really didn't know what to expect. I mean, of course I could have read the Mal synopsis and watched the promo video, but I prefer to go into a movie or show as blind as I possibly can. The YouTuber Arlo made a video that pretty much perfectly articulates this idea, so check that out if you want more elaboration. Anyway, point being, after watching 10 movies by this studio that all have, you know, a plot, I was not expecting My Neighbors the Yamadas to not have that. The whole film is basically a montage of disconnected episodes of the family's life. And while I initially wasn't a big fan of this structure, it kinda grew on me as the movie ran along. Like, the dramatic stakes of the film are barely present at all, so I initially struggled to find a reason to, care about these characters, but as the film goes on and you get to see all the different aspects of their non-fantastical life, they continuously feel more and more like real people. In a weird way, it's precisely the lack of fantasticality that gives this movie its charm. It's unspectacular just like in real life, and that makes the characters very relatable at times. For example, I really like the story about the dad who was trying to get the family to take a picture with him while they were all glued to the TV. Despite this being a pretty mundane situation, it was also very compelling because the emotions of the father are so easily empathized with. Furthermore, I've been in basically this exact situation on a number of occasions, and I'm a little ashamed to say that I was not the dad. In complete honesty though, while those kinds of relatable moments were enjoyable, they only took the movie so far for me, and this feeling was kinda exemplified by the few moments in the film that do go out of their way to be spectacular. Like the sequence at the beginning of the movie that uses visual metaphor to illustrate Matsuko and Takashi's life as they first got married, started living on their own, had kids, etc. And not only did it perfectly reflect the kind of emotions one would expect to experience as they explored married life with their partner, but it was just beautiful. It was so organically animated, and it made full use of the extremely simplified and stylized character designs as well as the simplified aesthetic in general. But when you start off a film with such a vibrant, lively sequence, I can't help but get my hopes up. So when we then immediately cut back from that to decently animated versions of the same characters but without any added detail and virtually no background to speak of, I was kinda let down, and the sizable majority of the movie looks this way, which led me to be kinda bored not too infrequently. Of course, it's not like that beginning sequence is the only instance of Sakuga in the movie though. There are multiple other examples. My personal favorite was that scene where Takashi went out at night to tell the bikers that they were making too much noise. Now, the marriage sequence was visually spectacular, but it upheld the style that the vast majority of this film runs with. The biker scene, however, changes the visuals up entirely, becoming much more realistic and gritty, and man, it looks good. Like, I'm a huge fan of sketchy artwork, I really love it, but it's especially powerful when it's used to give stuff texture, and the majority of the movie doesn't really follow through on that, but this scene right here is just so good. I love it. On the subject of visuals though, I should mention that I kinda wasn't the biggest fan of the character designs. They're just kinda stiff, and they look top heavy. Everyone's legs are super short and it looks weird. Don't at me. One aspect of this movie that I actually have nothing but praise for is the voice acting. It's a very precise thing to get right, but everyone in the family shares a sort of speech style, if that makes sense. I don't know if dialect is the right word, but the performances really convince you that the characters have known each other for a long time and have had the kinds of conversations we see them having for a long time. And beyond that, everyone sounds very distinguished, and the individual performances are pretty great across the board. My personal favorite is definitely Nonoko though. As I watch more and more shows and movies, I've come to appreciate how difficult it is to play the part of a child, whether you yourself are a child or not, and so Uno Naomi's performance felt especially strong here. It's a bit of a shame that she pretty much got relegated to just the one story of her getting lost towards the beginning of the movie. I guess she's only 6 years old or something, there wouldn't really be much for her to contribute to the story otherwise, so whatever. I really like Noboru's little bit about just being a pretty stereotypical adolescent boy, keeping his parents at arm's length, buying race car magazines instead of textbooks, setting up a date with the girl in his class, etc. This is kind of the theme of the video, but I found it decently compelling even though the stakes were pretty low and it wasn't all that spectacular. If I had to choose a favorite character though, it would definitely be Takashi, the father. I already went over the whole getting a picture of the family story, but there are a number of other instances that further his characterization as the underappreciated figure of support for the family, a feeling that I'm sure a lot of parents can relate to. But beyond that, I like that he doesn't come across as bitter towards his family, just a little sad sad. It's all summed up pretty well in the sequence where Takashi imagines himself as Moomin Rider, saving his family from a couple of Yakuza members or something? I don't know, it doesn't matter. But after he saves them, he gets a big thanks from the kids and an obviously thankful smile from Matsuko. He just wants to be appreciated, and I found his development to be the most engaging throughout the film's run. It also helped that most of the moments where the visuals really kicked it up a notch were scenes that involved Takashi's characterization in some way. Furthermore, I found it interesting that neither Takashi nor any of the other characters really have full arcs, as in they get characterization but no real conclusion, and this isn't a bad thing. Again, it feeds into the whole depiction of what normal life is like. More times than not, you'll come across these mild annoyances and you just kinda gotta live with them. As the ending song would put it, que sera sera, or whatever happens, happens. Funny anecdote about that song, actually, I don't remember the movie explicitly translating the phrase que sera sera into English, but I still understood it, both based on context of the movie, but also because Spanish is my second language. In Spanish, que means what, and ser is the verb meaning to be. Será, then, is the future tense of the form ser, so the literal translation is what will be will be, so it was pretty cool to be able to figure that out on my own. I was not expecting to encounter any Spanish in this movie. Also, I've been rewatching Fruits Basket, yes, I'll be making a video about it, and they say que sera sera in that show too, so now I'm wondering if this is like some really common Japanese phrase that I've just somehow missed my entire anime watching life. I don't know, I thought it was kind of funny. Anyway, that's everything I had to say about My Neighbors the Yamadas. As always, I would love to hear what you guys thought about this film down in the comments, assuming that you're watching these movies along with me, or that you had already seen this one. Tune in to the next installment of Watching Every Ghibli Movie, where I will be watching, oh boy, Sen to Chihiro no Kamikakushi, or Spirited Away. And with that said, have a wonderful day, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.